What's up guys, FrugalBC. Interesting video today on comparing Solana and Algorand. We're going to look at a defense of Solana despite all the failed transactions, the amount of downtime it's had. We're just going to dig through this post and give my critique of it on today's FrugalBC. By the way guys, if you like this kind of stuff, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button, and remember you don't have to smash it. You can just press it gently. Also, I want to give a big shout out to Non-Fungible Domains, one of our sponsors of the show. If you want that .algo address after your name instead of that much more complicated letters and numbers, check out Non-Fungible Domains in the description below. And we are brought to you by Fractal Monsters, a play-to-earn game on the Algorand blockchain. You can actually get a free monster now. Just by going over and playing on Fractal Monsters, so go check that out. Links for both of those in the description, but now onward to our show. So today's post comes from Justin Bonds. He's been talking a lot about Solana, and he had this defense of Solana that he put out. I felt like I had to react to this thing, so without a lot of further ado, let's just take a look. This is the Twitter thread, and he says, I used to be one of Solana's biggest critics, covering the fake usage numbers, the centralized design, downtime, lies, and fraud. This is all stuff I've talked about, by the way. Maybe not the usage numbers. I never dived into that, but I talked about the downtime, the lies and frauds. You know, this was connected with Sam Bankman-Fried, which he does not mention in this critique at all, just to be clear. By the way, Justin Bonds is the founder CIO of Cyber Capital, Europe's oldest cryptocurrency fund, and he's a full-time crypto researcher since 2014. And he's got a pretty big audience, about 46,000 or so. Anyway, he says, so in this thread, we're going to go over all my old critiques and explore one by one how Sol has changed. And explain how we pivot for decentralization's sake, which I'm going to kind of debunk in a little bit, so keep an eye on that. Starting off fake usage numbers, when I first called this out in 2021, there was very little real usage. This is why Sol claiming 40,000 TPS at the time was a straight up lie. Yeah, for sure it was. For sure. It's obvious now because Sol has in fact cleaned up its communications since then, even though TPS figures can still be misleading today, which is I think a key element. So 2593 raw TPS, but you have to remove 909 voting transactions, then remove failed transactions, which is 27%. That gives you the actual 663. So they're still reporting 2600 and actually getting 663. Now when you go to Algorand, you're getting the actual TPS, which is lower than 663, but it has been higher. It has reached that level before. When the Aura experiment first went live, it really increased the transactions, and the chain held up pretty well. Some of the dApps were not able to handle that much volume. They weren't set up for that kind of volume, so it kind of broke a couple of the dApps briefly. They had to make some adjustments, but the chain held up fine, has never gone down. We'll cover that in a minute. There's far more usage than any other blockchain right now, making Sol the leader in the decentralized utility. Yeah, not by a ton though. I think HBAR has quite a pretty high TPS too. Ratio between voting and non-voting transactions improved as usage increased. This is how I went from calling out Sol for fake usage to supporting Sol for its high usage, even though more than half is still not accurate, but sure. And fair enough, so 600, it's still a pretty respectful number, so I want to be fair. That's still a respectful number, but they should be reporting that number. Same could be said for TVL figures, and I'm going to give a massive, which were massively inflated at times. I think I'm going to give a big caveat to the TVL, but let's see what he says. Okay, these were fortunately only growing pains as ecosystems adjusted. Now TVL metrics are more fairly compared, putting Sol a respectable 5 billion, actually 4.8, but close enough while growing fast, giving it a bright future. But here's the, I actually do think it's a vanity metric, and he kind of says that here. Yeah, so 4.8 billion, number 4 on the list. You know, Ethereum is the number 1, and that makes sense. It's just the one it's kind of the default when people get into crypto. It's like the default for building on something, because Ethereum, everyone knows, oh, Ethereum. I know Bitcoin and I know Ethereum. So, and they got the biggest base, so of course they're going to use it. But also the thing about TVL you have to remember is that it's a function of price as well. So it's usage, but it's also price. So as the price of a coin goes up, which Solana has seen a lot of increase in price. I mean, look how much it's changed in a month. The usage didn't change 100% in a month. The price went up 100% in a month, which is good. You know, hey, by the way, like I bought Solana in the bear market and it did very well for me. Why? Because I don't know. I know people, its price tends to go up, and if its price tends to go up, it probably will the next bear cycle or next bull cycle. Algorand's price has not been great, so that its TVL suffers. Which is not to say I think Solana's usage would still be a lot higher than Algorand's. TVL, the reason TVL is hard to judge is because it fluctuates so much based on price, because the price is always listed in dollars. So if you're going to compare it to like growth, you would want to count it in Solana. The problem is that sometimes makes it hard to do apples and apples comparisons. So TVL is like a really challenging figure. But anyway, some of the design decisions such as POH and Turbine do trade decentralization for scale. I bite the bullet on that one. So what does that even mean in practice? It lowers the threshold for attack. I don't really have a comment on that. Sol's market capitalization is still 4 times larger than the next L1 competitor down. Actually, not quite true. In fact, why don't we share this? Here's Solana at 80 billion and XRP is at like 34 billion. That's not 4 times. That's like barely 2.5. I don't think that's even quite 2.5. And then USD isn't much behind that. So you have to go like all the way down to Cardano. Maybe it's counting Cardano. I don't know. It is about close to 4 times Cardano's market cap. I don't know if that's the one he means. Like it is probably more of a direct competitor, but XRP is like really close. So I don't know what he's talking about there. Centralization is a spectrum with multiple interacting levers. What it means is a high capacity chain with 10,000 nodes on supercomputers, more decentralized than a low capacity chain with 100 nodes on Raspberry Pis. This is an extreme example, but highlights my point. This is why despite high node requirements and despite centralizing design decisions, Sol is in fact relatively decentralized for its size. Its scale plays an important role in practical decentralizations with a well-distributed stake running over 1.7 thousand validator nodes. I looked it up. It's about 1,600 on Algorand right now, at least from what I could find. And that's another thing that was a lot harder. The first Google result is like a forum from 2022, so I had to dig a little deeper. But I found the most recent thing said about 1,600. I think that's going to increase a lot when staking happens. So Algorand's a lot smaller. So for it to be a lot smaller and have the same number of nodes, I don't think that's a great win in terms of decentralization. And we'll see another argument why I think both Algorand and Solana kind of suffer on the decentralization side, which I only kind of care about, to be honest. I don't think 100% decentralization is the way to go, to be honest. And I know that puts me at odds with most of the crypto community, but most people aren't experts in cryptocurrencies. Like I wouldn't know how to run a L1. I've studied this stuff a lot, and I'm certainly not an expert. I can't do the math of cryptography. So I mean, should smarter people than me be running it? Probably. So there's also multiple competing clients developing the L1, big in decentralization. I don't know what that means exactly. There's no off switch, like actual permission change, like apt and HBAR, chains of permission elements like XRP and Algo. Sol has 0 permissioned elements. It's a proper public, trustless, and decentralized blockchain. I wonder what part of Algo he means when he says is permissioned. Like what exactly? I don't know exactly what he's talking about there. So I guess I'll just leave that one alone. I'm not really sure which part, what he's exactly referring to. Like what's permission? Anyone can build on it. People have taken the code is open sourced on Algorand. People are developing a new chain called Voy. That's the Algorand backbones, you know. Anyway, another elephant in the room is Sol's frequent downtime, something I am still very critical towards, and I am too. He's talking about how it's getting better. Well, that's great. Yeah, free markets have been implemented and be improved more with the next update. Yeah, that's great, but like Algorand has never been down once. So if I was a company, I was going to build on a chain. I was going to use a chain for my company. Like, do I want one that's just never ever gone down, or do I want one that's been down a bunch of times? I mean, I personally would choose the one that's not been down. I think it's a big win in Algorand's favor. The state of Sol should be perfect stability, but why can't it just, again, you know, Algorand's already has perfect stability. So fraud and lies are a more difficult thing to turn the other cheek towards. By the way, he says later on that some of these same people are still in charge. The people who, he says, well, it's decentralized, so blockchain can transcends its founding. But is it? We'll get to that. He says that Sol is not defined by its original leadership. Again, something he admits later on will give lie to that, but we'll get to that. He talks about how they lied about the supply. Like, by the way, it was half. They lied about the supply was actually double what they originally said. They were caught lying about circulating supply. They made false statements about TPS, deceptively designed to falsely inflate usage. They were faking peak TVL numbers and made some dangerous trade-offs in design. He's just including his old critique. Yeah, that's really the end of his message. Let's see what else he said. I said, yeah, are you going to invest in Algorand before or after they remove relay node requirements? After, I did not invest in blockchains with permission elements at all. It needs to be seen how that will all play out. Yeah, well, the validator node stuff I think is going to be great. Different than the relay node, so fair enough. Does Solana have functioning on-chain governance right now? Sol has a rudimentary form of on-chain governance. That commitment is at least a lot better than ETH. And that's how I describe Algorand. I describe it as rudimentary. But then if that's not fully decentralized, then it means you're relying on the founders. So those same founders that lied, you're still relying on them. How well distributed? He says well distributed. Yeah, he says some of the same people are in charge who previously lied about TPS and supply. Like, how is that not alarming? I don't understand how that's not super alarming. And then we have this going on with the transactions. 75% of user transactions are failing, or are they? So ugly. You can see this chart. I mean, these are all the failed transactions. That's by the way, that's all green on Algorand. Algorand just doesn't have failed transactions. And I know that from using it all the time. You know, the only thing that happens is in-app, but you never get a failed transaction just because of the... This is all non-vote transactions, by the way. Uptick has been paralleled by recent upruns from Solana users on social media complaining of failed transactions and degraded user experience. Right, so it's still happening. I just find that as much as I think this is a altcoin Sherpa, he says, as much as I think that Sol is the chain for retail this cycle, the experience is effing brutal lately. However, in an April 4th post to X, Focal Solana proponent and Helios CEO Mumtaz took issue with the claim that 75 transactions were failing, noting that the vast majority of failed transactions were simply bot spam. But you're still seeing people. This is the thing. Like, you can maybe brush away some of it, but if all these people are complaining about failed transactions, then you clearly have a problem. So what's my point here? My point here is, like, at some point reality has to retail sentiment has to match reality. If you have something that just fails so much and there's so many problems with it, I don't understand why it pumps. But I still bought some for the bull market because right now that's just the reality that we're in. The coin tends to pump, it tends to go up in value, and Algorand doesn't. I don't know. Crypto's kind of crazy like that. So it is what it is. Solana's pumping. People like it. People seem to like it. You know, I think it was a good coin to invest in for the bull run. It's paid off. It's one of the only coins I am currently in the positive on in terms of like, I've taken out, it's moonbag territory. I've taken out all my initial investment, whereas every other coin I at least have some still locked in. I've done very well on some of them. I was actually had 3 coins that I was up on that I had were moonbags, but I reinvested during the pullback. So waiting for those to pay off, and they seem to be going in the right direction. But yeah, it's something. It is what it is. I mean, I tell people deal with reality, and the reality is Solana has a lot of problems, but it seems to have people's imagination. People like it. And if people like it, they're going to invest in it. So that is what it is. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this breakdown. I'm FrugalBC. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And as always, stay safe out there, and I will see you in the future.